first of all, the only thing that's holding anybody back is self-doubt. So that is the number one thing that is going to get in anybody's way. I don't care if you're doing 7 figures, you're doing 6 figures, whatever. Self-doubt at every stage is going to creep back in, and it's going to prevent you from stepping outside your comfort zone, tweaking things that you need to tweak, and making the pivots that you need to make. There is something else, though, that I have been thinking a lot about, Peter, and it's impacting all of us in ways that I don't think we quite realize. And that is the fact that so much of our success is measured by what other people are doing. So I'm going to give you an example. Every one of us is probably following people we admire on social media. And that is both a good thing because it's inspiring, but you got to really watch out for when you start to beat yourself up over the fact that you're not where someone else is going to be. You and I have a good buddy, Lewis Howes, the School of Greatness. You know, yesterday, for example, I posted this post about how I got freaking lice. I don't even know who gave it to me, but you know, that lice is something that spreads because people hide it. It's like a secret, right? And so I write this big post, and then I see Lewis's post, and he's doing Cadillac confessions, you know, clearly some sort of branded thing. And I think, what am I doing? Like, he's way ahead of me. He's got a Cadillac sponsorship. I'm not doing enough. And so I think that there's something you got to really watch out for, ladies and gentlemen. And that is, are you using the people that inspire you to make you better, or are you using them to beat yourself up because you're not where they are? And so when you catch yourself, like I did yesterday, really being proud of Lewis and then using it as a way to say, oh, I gotta get going. I gotta do more of that. That's a problem. That's a form of self-doubt. And it is everywhere. You know, we were hiking with our kids. We have 2 teenage kids, and we were up in the presidential range in New Hampshire, and we were having a conversation about social media. And our daughter said something that I want everybody to take to heart. She said, your social life today is all about what everybody else is doing. And I think the same is true with business success. Too many of us fall into the trap of defining our business success by what other people are doing. And so if you get just one thing from our conversation today, other than a gigantic kick in the ass from both Peter and me, I want you to understand that your highest value proposition is you. There is only one you. You have inner wisdom. You have a unique set of experiences. You have struggles. All of that is yours. And so, yes, look around at what other people are doing and draw inspiration from it, but then pull it back in and check it against what your wisdom is telling you, what your definition of success is. And so those are 2 things right off the bat that I've been thinking a lot about. One is self-doubt is always and forever going to be your biggest obstacle. And number 2, watch out for how quickly the things that inspire you become a trap that you use to invalidate where you're at. Because where you're at right now is exactly where you need to be. Exactly.
So we got a cool question on Twitter from Langley in Nigeria, and it has to do with something that we've been hearing from a lot of you about, and that is imposter syndrome. Particularly for those of you that are running a small business, or those of you that have a side hustle that you're trying to turn into your full-time thing. Imposter syndrome is very real. Let's deal with it right now. Langley writes from Nigeria, I'm passionate about film and cinema, Mel. I tweet and I blog about it. People are inspired by what I write. But when I'm offered certain opportunities, I clench up and suddenly feel like an imposter who will mess up and be found. I'm 36, I'm single, in a paycheck to paycheck situation, and feel like I have wasted many years due to overthinking, self-doubt, and never feeling good enough or ready. How can I overcome this? Well, you can't. You can't overcome the feelings that are rising up, Langley, but you can take action despite them. That's a very important distinction that I want each and every one of you to understand. The things that you're feeling, clenching up, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're not ready, doubting yourself, kind of spending too much time thinking about how much time you've wasted, all that, that's normal that we all do. You cannot overcome those thoughts because they keep rising up and they've become a habit and it's sort of a pattern. So I don't want you to focus on the thoughts. I want you to focus on taking action, even though you doubt yourself. You are going to feel like an imposter until you push through that clenched up moment over and over and over again. And then suddenly, through action, Langley, you're going to see that you're not an imposter at all. You're actually the kind of person that pushes through and does what he or she says they are going to do. See, imposter syndrome grows and sticks around when you listen to it and when you keep thinking and when you freeze. The moment you take action, even though you feel like an imposter, you actually explode the syndrome. You kill it. You break it apart because you're not acting like an imposter. You're proving to yourself through the action that you know what you're doing. Now look, the feelings are going to take a while to catch up. The first 16 jobs that you do where you feel nervous, those nerves are going to be there with you the entire time. Feeling nervous is normal. Letting it stop you is a choice. I say this stuff all the time because this is what you're struggling with. If you suffer from imposter syndrome, it's not an issue of whether or not you have the skill. The problem is that you have a pattern of thinking in a way that stops you the moment you start to doubt yourself. If you want to be successful in business, if you truly want that side hustle to turn into your full-time thing, you have to learn how to let the feelings of doubt rise up, but take action anyway. You've got to learn to embrace the fact that you're going to feel like an imposter, but you, my friend, are the kind of person that moves forward anyway. You're passionate about film and cinema. Awesome. Keep tweeting, keep blogging. When people write to you, when they hire you and you get that clenched up feeling, that's a great sign. It means you're about to do something really cool. That's when you're going to just recognize the feeling, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action like the rock star film and cinema guy that you are. I hope that that helps, but the only thing that's going to help you with imposter syndrome is for you to not listen to it and take action anyway. In this video, I'm going to show you the specific way that you can use the 5-second rule to stop doubting yourself and worrying so much. Now, a lot of people will tell you, oh, just think positive, or try not to worry. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. And the reason why it's not easy is because it doesn't work. And actually, research shows that when you try to ignore your worries, it can actually make them worse. Look, I understand this topic more than most people because I struggled for decades, not only with worrying and self-doubt, I actually suffered from anxiety and panic attacks for almost 25 years. And in fact, I took Zoloft for 2 decades to control my anxiety. Using the 5-second rule, I've not only been able to stop worrying and doubting myself, I've cured myself of anxiety, and I've been off meds for more than 4 years. I'm panic attack free, and I almost never, ever worrying about anything. And you can teach yourself to do the exact same thing using the rule. First, here's what I want you to know. You're not a worrier. A lot of us call ourselves a worrier, right? Oh, I'm a worrier. You're not a worrier. You have a habit of worrying. That's a very big difference. You've allowed your mind to drift and linger on negative thoughts so many times, it's now a pattern of behavior that you repeat, and you don't even realize it. And that's actually good news, because that means that you and I can use the science of habits to break the habit of worrying and the habit of doubting yourself. In the language of habit research, the 5-second rule is what psychologists call a starting ritual. It's a tool that you can use that will interrupt the negative thought patterns that are encoded in your brain as habits and trigger positive new thought and behavior patterns. The 5-second rule is shockingly effective because it works with all the latest research about habits. What I've learned using the 5-second rule is that I do in fact have control over what I think. And when you use the 5-second rule, you'll discover that you do too. Here's how you're going to use the rule. The moment that you feel your thoughts drift, and have you ever noticed how worrying and self-doubt, they have a way of literally like taking you away from a situation. You can feel your mind go from the present moment to drifting to something negative. Maybe you're sitting at a meeting at work and suddenly you start talking down at yourself and doubting yourself. It happens like that. But the moment that you catch yourself do it, that's a moment of tremendous power. You have a decision to make. You can either sit there and listen to the worry and listen to the self-doubt and let it hijack you, or you can make a decision to assert control. That's when you use the rule. You're going to use the countdown trick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's essential. Counting backwards interrupts the negative thought pattern. It's also going to awaken your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that you need to override a bad habit and replace your bad habit with a positive new one. So every time you feel your thoughts drift to something negative, or you find yourself worrying about things you can't control, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it'll switch the gears in your brain, it'll interrupt the negative thought pattern, it'll activate your prefrontal cortex, and you've just created a starting ritual that will prime your mind to accept a more positive thought. That is how you use the rule to change. Some days you might use the rule 20 times to interrupt your habit of worrying and doubting yourself.
From Angie, why is it so easy to fill out limiting beliefs, but almost paralyzing to figure out an alternative, think this, not that? How many of you are having trouble with this? It's very easy to see where you doubt yourself, but it's super hard to come up with the alternative thought that you're going to substitute. Well, the reason why it's hard is because you actually believe these thoughts. And these thoughts have become patterns, and they've become habits, and they've become so prevalent in your life that they're almost like the co-host of your life. If you think about it, you are the star of your life. But if the supporting actor is a limiting belief that constantly tells you that you're not good enough, or that you're not worthy, or that you'll never succeed, then it's no wonder that you believe it, because the co-star of your life is your limiting beliefs. And so it's not easy to change your limiting beliefs, but it is simple. And it begins with you identifying them and then substituting them. So the most, I think, effective way of beginning the process of teaching yourself how to identify a limiting belief and then come up with your own substitute positive belief as a way to change the negative pattern in your mind is to use the power of objectivity. So write down all your limiting beliefs, and I'm going to go through this in detail in just a second. Write down all your limiting beliefs. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Nothing works out for me. Nobody's going to love me. Whatever the fuck it is that you think that's bringing you down. And then you can ask yourself this: what would Mel say? If Mel were sitting here across from me, what would Mel say? Another thing you can do, you can write the opposite of what you're thinking. And you may not believe it. It's okay. Because what we're doing is training you in a new pattern. And one of the things that Angie asked is she wanted to know, what were my limiting beliefs? So yesterday we sent out this workbook, the Best Decade Ever Toolkit. It's in your email. If you go to the Facebook group, Best Decade Ever with Mel Robbins, it's also listed on the files. You'll find a download for this. Check your junk email if you didn't get it. But so my limiting beliefs. So I want to have the #1 talk show of the decade. And the #1 talk show of the decade right now seems to be Ellen. And so it's interesting because a lot of my limiting beliefs, I think, are provoked by the fact that I'm the newcomer in a space that I have huge dreams of making a mark in and dominating. So one of my limiting beliefs is someone's already done it. How many of you have that one? My dream has already been done. So my substitute thought, because this feels kind of true, doesn't it? Somebody's already done it. And then my substitute thought, the think this, not that, is, well, they haven't done it my way yet. It hasn't been done by me yet. Do you see what I mean? So somebody else has done it. Okay, I get it. It hasn't been done by me yet. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. How many of you have that limiting belief? It'll never happen. My substitute belief, it hasn't happened yet. So I'm acknowledging that it hasn't happened, but I'm adding on the yet as a way to keep my mind in the positive. It didn't happen last time, so it's not going to happen this time. How many of you have that one? Yeah. This is what I say. I wasn't ready then. I'm ready now. Because it didn't happen last time because I didn't know everything I know now. I'm ready now. I don't deserve it. How many of you have this limiting belief? I don't deserve it. My thought is, if I work hard, I'll earn it. Do you see that? So it flips from a statement where I'm bashing my self-worth, I don't deserve it, to a statement about putting in the effort. If I work hard, I'll earn it. Oh, I've got this story that I'm the bad news bears, that I'm literally like the person with the worst equipment, and I'm the underdog, and I'm underfunded, and why does it have to be so hard, and why does it seem so much easier for everybody else, and blah, 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 blah. And I flip that into, I love being underestimated, and I love being the underdog. In a very weird way, as much as it exhausts me, it also empowers me. Here's a specific limiting belief. How the fuck am I going to compete with Ellen? I can't compete with Ellen. Especially when she's been at it for 20 years. She has the budget of God and an army of people that are supporting her. I mean, there was something she did announced yesterday on social media that I was so like, oh, of course. And I was so jealous. She announced a partnership with Starbucks where she's encouraging people to pay for somebody's coffee using the Starbucks app behind them in line. And then take a video of it and upload it. And they're going to bring them on the show. And I was like, oh, will I ever get there? Will I ever get to do cool stuff like that? And the answer is yeah. She proves it's possible. And also, I can take the 10 years and be like, and in 20 years, I won't even recognize the cool stuff I'll be able to do if I put in the work. So take that jealousy or somebody else or whatever and say it proves it's possible. Now put in the work. So those are some of my limiting beliefs, and that's how you can do it. And by the way, if you can't do that exercise successfully on your own, post in the Facebook group and tell people this is your limiting belief. Can somebody help you come up with a substitute positive belief so that you can think this, not that? Ask somebody in your life to help you. And then what you do is when you find yourself going down the route of that negative thought, it'll never happen. You're going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, use the 5-second rule to interrupt the negative belief. And then you are going to insert the positive belief. It hasn't happened yet. That's it. Just keep going.
What we're going to talk about is confidence. What is it? Because a lot of us don't understand it. I know I didn't understand it. I had not the real confidence, I had the fake kind. You know, the really bossy, annoying kind, where it was really driven by insecurity. What we want to talk about is real confidence. The other thing we're going to talk about is the habit of self-doubt. The habit of self-doubt. So believe it or not, self-doubt is a habit. It's a behavior, a thinking pattern that you repeat over and over, and then it becomes automated. And when I can get you to understand that anxiety, worry, procrastination, self-doubt, they are all habits, then I can show you using science how you can break them. And then everything changes. And it all comes back to these 5-second decisions. If you had more confidence, how would your business and life change for the better? I'm going to tell you how mine had when I finally learned what confidence is and what it isn't. Number one, I know how to say no. How many of you have a hard time saying no? You have clients you can't stand. You have people that work for you that drain you. The ability to align your goals with values and actions. Fearless negotiator. Fearless. Greater self-control. By the way, let me stop there for a second because I believe that in today's world, this is the number one skill for you. Self-control. And we're going to give you tools today that are going to give it to you. You're going to make a lot more money and you're going to be a happier human being. Absolutely. And I'm going to show you how to do it. We can talk about change all you want, But I'm the kind of person that's about real advice for real people, and that's going to require some real action. So as I'm talking, I want you to notice what are the physical sensations, the feelings that come up in your body. When I ask you, how would your life change if you had more confidence, and you have an answer, do you feel yourself shrinking? Do you feel yourself talking yourself out of raising your hand? Because if I can get you to start to isolate that pattern and that habit simply in how you respond to whether or not you're going to answer this question, if I can break that right there so that you learn to try, I almost fell off. Oh, good, there's a thing. You learn to try. Thank you. I'm going to crowd surf right now. You got me? Okay. Then you can bring that anywhere. I'm into experiential learning because, I've got dyslexia, I'm ADD. It's really hard for me to read and retain. So if I feel it, if I have to do it, then it sticks. So let's talk about the myths and the truths about confidence, okay? Number one, confidence is a personality trait. Total baloney. Total baloney. Lots of extroverted people that are really bossy and annoying, like I used to be, although I might still be a little annoying, but really insecure. Really insecure. There's a lot of introverted folks that feel uncomfortable putting themselves out there, but they really believe in what they're saying. So confidence is not a personality trait. Confidence is fixed. That's not true. You could be the most confident person in the world, and the person that you love leaves you. That's going to rock confidence. You could be a really great business person and then make a really bad decision and blow it all. That's going to rock you. Number three, the confidence starts with belief. This is where I go against so many other people. I actually believe that this is not true. I think that thinking positive thoughts will certainly make you feel better in the moment, but it's not going to create change that you want. That you can be a negative, frustrated, depressed, anxiety-ridden son of a gun, and you can still take action. And that taking action is key. You see, here's the truth about confidence. First of all, it's not a skill, it's a trait. And that's good news. It's not a trait. Oh, it's a skill, it's not a trait. See, dyslexia on full display. I was not lying about that. Confidence is a skill, it's not a trait. Confidence is situational. So there are areas of your life where you are confident, and then there are areas of your life where you have a ton of doubt. And here's the most important one. Confidence begins with action. Now, this is not something that I made up, and in a second I'm going to show you the science. I want you to write this quote down. If you have a problem that can be solved with action, you don't have a problem. So a lot of us talk about the problems that we have, but they're actually not problems. We're stuck in one of the traps of self-doubt. And that's what we're going to be talking about in just a second. But first, I want to show you how you build confidence. And let's look at the research, because there's really, really strong research on this. If you want more information on this, just Google the confidence competency loop. The confidence competency loop. Let me show you what this is. So basically, if you try something, he's either going to succeed or he's going to survive. Now, what happens if you survive it? Like you really blow it, but you survive it. Well, you learn something. And then when you learn something, what are you doing? You're building skills. And when you're building skills at something, what are you gaining? Competency. All competency means is that by learning something over and over and over again, you have to do less thinking about it, so you don't have time to get anxious. Just like me in the bed. I had time to lay there, so I was thinking about all my problems. The more you do something, the more that you try, the more you build skill and competency, and that is where confidence comes. So I want you to walk out of here not only with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Catch yourself when you feel yourself shrinking. Catch yourself when you feel yourself editing yourself or silencing yourself. I also want you to walk out of here with a brand new definition of confidence, which I'm going to give to you in a second. Because check this out. All of us are going to feel failure. Let me show you what happens when you are afraid of failing, when you're fearing it. First of all, you're going to start thinking, aren't you? Ooh, I don't know if I want to give a speech. I might be really bad at it. And then I don't know what I want to talk about. And I'm not really sure. Am I ready? Am I not ready? Should I wear the tennis shoes? Should I wear the heels? Should I not do this? Should I do this? And then, of course, as you think, you're going to start to doubt yourself. And this becomes this loop. This is what researchers call a habit loop. We're going to get more into this. This is a chunk of behavior that gets encoded in this part of your brain. You see, you're not a doubter. You have a habit of doing it. The same is true, by the way, when you feel nervous. You start overthinking. The same is true when you start feeling insecure. The same is true when you feel like a fake. The same is true when you start to get overwhelmed. The same is true when you start to fear rejection. All of those things, normal. It's normal to be afraid of being rejected. It sucks. It's normal to feel nervous. These feelings are normal. Acting nervous is a choice. There's only one way to break a habit loop. You have to insert a different behavior. Pretty neat, huh? See, we spend way too much time with the red arrows. I gotta be fearless. I can't ever worry. It's terrible to feel like a fake. No, it's not, it's normal. In fact, you're going to. When you first relaunch your eco-adventure company, you're gonna feel like a fake. That is normal. Acting like one is a choice. So the only way to break the habit of self-doubt and thinking is to take action. And what action are you going to take? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that, if you do it over and over, puts a new habit in place. This is how you build confidence, one 5-second decision at a time. Let me show you a little bit more science. So right here is your brain. And the red part right there, that's the basal ganglia. That's where all your habit loops get encoded. Everything that you do that you don't think about. Worrying. Let me give you another example. When you put on your pants, do you put your right or your left leg in first? You're thinking about it, aren't you? You don't when you pull your jeans on. It's a pattern of behavior that is right here. Here's the other problem. This is also where worry is. This is where anxiety is. This is where depression is. This is where self-doubt is. It's all right here. This is where procrastination is. What happens when you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is you activate the prefrontal cortex, which you know is the part of the brain that you need for strategic thinking, for acting with courage, for changing. So the truth is, in 5 seconds, you can change anything, and that changes everything. And I want you to understand that to feel more confident about the things that you want to do in your next chapter, it begins with being willing to try. So if confidence is the decision to try, because I also like the idea of you not thinking that the big topics like confidence are about how you feel. I want to make them action-based, because you can't control how you feel at times, but you can always choose how you act. So if confidence is the decision to try, here's the definition of self-doubt. It's the decision not to. See, one of the things that I've come to realize is that when you talk about self-doubt, it's such a big term that you tend to think that it's just nothing that you can control. But what if you started to consider that self-doubt is actually a decision? It's going to give you a lot of power. Now remember, I told you that your doubts create mountains and your actions move them. So let me show you the 4 traps of self-doubt. This is really incredible stuff. So the 4 traps of self-doubt, because I just said confidence is about an action, self-doubt is a decision not to try, and there are 4 ways, 4 actions that we all engage in that are you deciding not to try. Here they are: hesitating, hiding, hypercritical, and helplessness. So I'm going to unpack these for you, and I want you to be thinking for a minute. I want you to think about that next chapter. And as I roll these out, I want you to think about, are you stuck in this? And by the way, I can relate to every single one of these. So when I think about the next chapter of getting into throwing events and creating more and more courses and doing bigger and bigger things, I can see myself in every single one of these, okay?
This episode of The Minimalists is brought to you by nobody, because advertisements suck.
This podcast has bad words.
Hello, Minimizers. Welcome to the Minimalist Podcast, where we discuss what it means to live a meaningful life with less. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn.
And I'm Ryan Nicodemus, and together we are the Minimalists.
Do you ever treat yourself poorly with negative self-talk, self-doubt, and even self-hatred? Are the stories you tell yourself making you miserable? Well, perhaps there's a holistic approach to change your attitude, mindset, and behavior. Maybe there's a simple way to love and encourage the most important person in your life, you. That's what we're going to explore today. We're here with the author of the new book, The High Five Habit. Mel Robbins is here. Mel, thanks for joining us.
Whoa.
Thanks for being here.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
This is so perfect for you guys.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to learn to live with the stuff we're going to have less of when we're done talking and you implement this is you're going to have less self-doubt. You're going to have less self-criticism. You're going to have less mental, emotional, physical, physiological baggage that you are dragging around. We are going to throw that crap in the trash, hit delete, and leave you feeling lighter. We're going to prove to you using science that we can hit the reset button on your mind and get rid of that garbage you're dragging around. And let's go. Like, I'm so here we go.
Heck yeah. Well, you know, when I saw the title of the book, it's The High Five Habit, by the way, holding it up here for the camera. I was like, oh, this is certainly a metaphor for something before I started diving into it. And I'm like, no, she's actually talking about like getting into a habit of high-fiving yourself. And you know, if you were to just tell me that, I would kind of be skeptical. But like you said, like there's science behind it that I can't wait to get into.
We're going to dive into the book. On this minimal part, we're going to talk about self-doubt. On the maximal, we're going to dive deep into the book. Also, several ways to deal with self-hatred. Now, Mel, this is a listener-driven show, so I thought we would start with a question from one of our Patreon supporters. Frederico from Patreon has a question for us.
How do I rebuild my relationship with myself when starting from ground zero?
So, Mel, this is a pretty broad, expansive question, and so I thought maybe we would talk about this, and then we would narrow down into specifically what we're talking about. So starting from ground zero might mean, hey, I had a traumatic event happen to me, or maybe my life is changing. Maybe I'm reaching a point in my life where I need to do something different. I'm learning that everything I've done to make me happy or fulfilled or satisfied isn't working. So for Frederico, where do we even start? What do we talk about?
You actually start the exact same place we all have to start. Every morning in the mirror. Yeah, the Uber driver in Dallas that's in this book. I get choked up when I think about him. An aha moment.
Why choked up?
I get choked up because what happens for me every single day is, and you hear from people every single day. You've got millions and millions of people that are inspired by, empowered by, impacted by your content. There are people out there that use your work as a lifeline, and it is humbling. And what I am really present to in the work that I'm putting out, in the stuff that I'm sharing, whether it's my failures or the things that I'm using that are helping me in my own struggles, is just how much people are holding themselves back and how much pain people feel. Because most folks know what they dream about and what they want. And yet they're spending all of their time and energy arguing against what they want. And so you can have all these epiphanies. I hope that when somebody listens to our conversation and watches this, that they have a massive aha moment. But it's not going to mean fucking shit if you don't take action and do something about it. The aha moment is the door that opens. But your new life does not begin unless you fucking step through the door. And most people, and that's what was so kind of, you know, the simple idea of high-fiving yourself, of encouraging yourself, of supporting yourself. Most people, when you have an aha moment and the door to your new life opens up, instead of going, I got this, let's go, and high-fiving yourself to step forward, most of us go, I don't know if I'm worth that. I don't know if right now is the right time to do this. I don't think I'm good enough. I've failed so many times I can't go through that door. And that's the problem I want to attack right now. That there is somewhere in your life that you know what you want. You can feel it pulling you. And you are actively arguing against it. You're bringing yourself down. You're beating yourself out. Like, people will cheer for you and me. They won't cheer for themselves. I'm the same way. And so this Uber driver, the story that you're talking about, I get into the car and we start driving, and I'm on the phone as we're driving, and I'm having a conversation with somebody about this daytime talk show that I launched, which was a dream with Sony Pictures Television, and then was promptly fired after season 1. It was a huge fucking failure because we didn't make it to season 2. Huge failure in real world terms. Right. Massive success when it comes to the timeline of my life. And so I'm talking to this person about the talk show. I hang up the phone and this Uber driver comes alive. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in my cab." And I'm like, "Why?" And he says, "Because I want to talk to you about something. I think you can help me." And I'm like, "Great, how can I help you?" And he says, "I have a dream of being a Oscar-winning actor and creating opportunities for other Black and Latino men to do the same in acting." And I'm like, "Freaking fantastic. What the fuck are you doing in Dallas?" Right? You know, the guy's 25. And so I go, the game is in New York and LA. I mean, sure, you can act, you can write stuff, you can be here in Dallas, but why are you not in LA? Why are you not in New York? And he's like, "You're right, you're right, you're right. I need to move to LA. I'm like, "Why not?" And he says, "I have $700 in my bank account." And I'm like, "That's freaking fantastic. You have $700 in a car? Dude, drop me off and get driving. What are you waiting for?" And so we have this whole conversation, and I write about it in this book, where I am actively arguing for his dream, and he is actively arguing against his dream. And what is so sad is throughout this conversation, Tom, he's like, "You're right. $700 could get me there. You're right. I am only 25. You're right. If I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I want to be doing, I'm not only going to drive in circles, my whole life is going to spin in circles as I think about what I want and I don't do shit about it." And then you are going to find yourself not at 25, but at 45 or 65, and you're going to be so filled with regret that you never fucking put a bet on yourself. And so this conversation ends with him declaring that he's going to go to California and me giving him a bunch of tools that I talk about in this book. And the point of the story is, does he move or not? I don't fucking know. The point of the story is, it's so easy to see what somebody else should do. It's so easy to cheer for somebody else. We all do that, right? We cheer for our favorite sports teams. We follow our favorite influencers and authors. We plan birthday parties for our friends. We take on extra work from our colleagues. We support everyone around us. We do not know how to do it for ourselves.
I saw recently you posted on your social media that one of the biggest lessons you learned in 2021 was the importance of self-forgiveness. So, like, what was something last year, as we kind of bring our conversation to a close, like, what was one of the biggest things last year you had to forgive yourself for?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I'm really, really hard on myself, or at least I had been. And last year, in the process of, writing the High Five Habit book and in learning the skill of being kind to yourself, the hard part of learning how to be kind to yourself is that you wake up and realize how awful you've been to yourself. And I think that the biggest thing that I've had to forgive myself for is all the mistakes that I made because I didn't know any better. I did plenty of things that could have had me behind bars, whether it was shoplifting or it was stealing. Well, I guess that is stealing, right? When I was younger, I cheated in relationships when I was younger. And it's something that I deeply, deeply regret. But I also know that I didn't know any better. And I know it was driven by pain. Do I wish that it wasn't part of my story? The people pleaser in me does, because, I don't want, to admit that I did something like that. But the truth is, I'm glad it's part of my story, because it's one of the reasons why I'm so compassionate. It's one of the reasons why I understand how much people silently struggle, because I've lived it. And I also understand how hard it is to forgive yourself. And for me, forgiveness means you have stopped wishing that things were different, that you are able to accept what is and what isn't. You are able to accept what has happened and what hasn't happened. And that doesn't mean that you like it. It just means you've stopped spending time and energy wishing it could change. Because as long as you spend time and energy wishing things were different, you are trapped in the past. And so accepting it, forgiving yourself, and understanding why you did what you did, that's the only path that I've found to being able to forgive myself for the things that I used to wish I hadn't done. But now I accept, I understand, I've learned the lesson, and I know it's part of my story.
I have to tell you something. I've been in the self-help world for a long time. I gotta say, your book triggered me in the beginning, and it gave me all of the feels and ways that I was not expecting. Do you mind if I reveal to you what I sort of discovered from this process?
Yes. So are you saying that you started to read The High Five Habit and you got triggered?
Oh, Mel, the title alone gave me all of the feels. So
Why?
so here's the thing. I'm not a high fiver. And not only am I not a high fiver, but as an adult, I usually decline if somebody wants to high five. I know.
Are you a germaphobe?
No, it goes so much deeper than this. So I grew up in a very athletic community. And as a gay 6'6" overweight kid, my memory of high fives is hearing things like, Dougal doesn't get a high five because he didn't do anything, and sort of being left out. So when I started reading the book, at first I thought, why do I have such a challenge with high fives? I like, even on the Peloton, if people high five you, not a sponsor, but they could be if they want to. If people high five you, I will ignore it. So I started the book and I really wanted to like merge into it. And so what came up for me in the beginning is sort of this past memory of, I don't belong here. I'm not a part of the team. I'm not allowed to do this. And I'm really enjoying the book. I was going to race through it before the interview, but I want to sort of savor it because it's been bringing up a lot for me. And so in the moment where I'm in the morning, and I even resisted doing it before coffee, I had a lot of resistance, Mel. You were triggering me. And I got still and I took the challenge. And the first thing that I noticed is you cannot not smile. I immediately smile, and it immediately makes me feel good. And by day 3 or day 4, I'm going to get emotional. By day 3 or day 4, what came up for me was, I'm in this game. And it may not be a lacrosse game, and I'm not going to cry. And it may not be like a soccer game, but I'm a 44-year-old man now. Like, I'm in this game and we can celebrate ourselves. Who knew?
Who knew? It's been a wildly confronting process to not only discover this thing called the high five habit, but to unpack all of the science and research that explains A, why we resist it, B, why it's hard not to smile or cry or laugh when you do it, and C, why it has such a profound impact on people. And you know what I'll say is, number one, you're the first person that I've talked to that has brought up a negative memory around high fives. And so I'm absolutely thrilled to talk to you about it. And given that you have this negative association with a high five based on your lived experience, and you still push through the resistance, And you also were able to feel the impact of it. Proves even further to me why this is such a profound habit. And the reason why is because it works from the inside out.
Yes.
And even though those bastards teased you and bullied you and left you out of receiving a high five, and so your lived experience and association when you thought about it was negative, the fact is that your brain's neural association and your nervous system's programmed association with a high five was still profoundly positive.
Oh,
because
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
And I have to own my own. What I realize as I'm sort of going through this process is I think I've perhaps even designed situations where I've either mentally left myself out or designed it so that I feel left out. Because I thought, now, why would I reject a high five? Because I celebrate it when I see other people doing it. But I still think there's that shadow side, inner child thing of, it feels like someone's handing me a lacrosse stick at first. And I don't play lacrosse, but now it's like, no, I can, and I consider myself someone that wants to uplift other people and give energy to other people. And obviously it goes deeper into just the high five in the morning. It's about self-care and congratulating yourself. And that's a struggle for me. So it was really interesting to give myself permission to do it.
It goes even deeper because it's actually about self-worth.
Yeah.
And about self-love. And, you know, I want to unpack something that you just talked about, which is, as you've been reflecting on the fact that it's not really just about, you know, this represents what people who play lacrosse do. This actually represents something deeper because it represents acceptance. It represents support. It represents celebration. And it doesn't surprise me, given the amount of bullying and badgering and crap that you have had to take as a 6'6", overweight kid who is also gay, proudly gay, but you grew up in a time where it was not celebrated by your peers and not something that was the norm.
Right.
And so, I want to acknowledge that when you are somebody whose very existence is bullied and who feels like he doesn't belong because the laws say that you don't, or because the kids treat you differently, you develop protection mechanisms.
Yes.
And one of the biggest ones is to just pull yourself out and to be in the corner and to hide who you are because it's safer.
Yeah.
That way you don't get bullied. That way you
Exactly.
don't get badgered. And so, first of all, give yourself you get a gold star for the fact that you're recognizing it. Yep. Secondly, the high five in that lane, when you're somebody who is coming into and back to yourself, right? And when you're somebody who now realizes that you deserve to be fully seen for who you are. When you start to high five yourself, what happens is it's not like a fuck yeah, like a sounds like, oh, like, bro. That's not what the high five habit is, actually.
Right.
It's actually grounded in compassion and empathy and support of self. And so the reason why you smiled when you did it is because your brain doesn't know the difference between watching somebody else high five someone else or receiving a high five or giving a high five to someone else and you high fiving yourself.
Yeah.
To your brain, the physical action becomes the trigger that unlocks all of this lifetime neural association with the high five. Now, you cognitively were like, screw the high five. That's for dickhead lacrosse players and those.
Right. Wouldn't even give myself a chance at first.
Get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your brain still recognizes this as that gesture that people that like each other do to one another. So when you physically raise your hand to high five yourself, you can't think anything negative because your brain grabs all the programming that's already in your subconscious and then starts to marry it with your own reflection. So I'm not surprised that you're starting to have breakthroughs around, wow, I've really taken myself out in certain areas of my life. Wow, I'm so hard on myself.
Oh,
Wow, why is it so hard to stand in front of the mirror and actually raise my hand in celebration? And, we can unpack that too.
and I
I'm
went
having
into
a
it
hot
kicking.
flash.
I went into it kicking and screaming because, I teach, I also am a big believer in the way you start your day, start your energy. And one of the things you say is even before your cup of coffee, which triggered me, Mel. This triggered
Why?
me.
Why did it trigger you?
Well, coffee fuels my soul. But what I discovered was that, even the even the act of pouring a cup of coffee is taking me away from myself first. I'm going to the kitchen, the dog is there. I'm, having a conversation with my husband. So making it a priority to go to the bathroom first, to just be with myself and sleep gunk and all the stuff in my eyes and all of that before the coffee, before any stimulant of noise or any energy outside of my own being, I resisted it. We're talking about
Let me
what?
tell you why. Let me tell you
Tell
why.
me. Dissect
Okay,
me.
so I love that you just said that you're a huge proponent of the morning, and morning routines and setting yourself up for success and your energy in the morning. And you are right. All the research shows that your mood in the morning and your intention in the morning actually impacts productivity and focus and fulfillment all day long. So you're absolutely right. And I'm so happy you said this, because there's not a single person on the planet that I know of that is talking about the fact that everybody's morning routine contains a disgusting, destructive habit, and nobody has kicked the door wide open until right now.
What is it?
And let me tell you what the habit is. Before you read my book, when you walked into the bathroom and you were brushing your teeth, did you even look at yourself in the mirror?
I did, but not kindly.
Okay, I'm glad that you're being honest.
Yeah.
When you looked in the mirror, what did you think, or what did you focus on?
I struggle with body dysmorphic disorder. My audience knows this. I write about it and speak about it openly. So there is a moment of distortion, which I could relate to you talking about this in the book too, where first I'm criticizing my body. And not only am I criticizing my body, but I'm thinking of what's going to make me feel good. Coffee gives me my coffee dance, is what I call it. I get excited. I get motivated. I certainly meditate, but the visual, meditating is closing my eyes and not looking at myself. The visual of looking at myself, if I'm going to be completely honest, was more triggering than I expected it to be.
Okay, well, I wanna give you a sense that you're not alone in this. So when I discovered the high five habit during a very low moment in my life in April of 2020, and it just was something I did on a low morning, like you, where I'm standing in front of the mirror and I'm focused on everything I hate about the way that I look, and I'm beating myself up, and I'm thinking about my day, and I'm already criticizing the fact that I'm running late and I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And I just raise my hand and give the woman in the mirror that I see a high five, because she looks like she needed it. She looks like life had beaten her down. She looked overwhelmed and exhausted. And I honestly just didn't have any words to say. And I probably wouldn't have believed him anyway, because in April of 2020, my whole life was turned upside down. And so I didn't feel energized. I didn't feel empowered. I felt defeated. I felt lost. I felt overwhelmed. And, I think we can all relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all began. And as it started to work, and I noticed, like you're noticing, whoa, I feel more energized. Whoa, like I'm not criticizing myself. Wow, something weird is happening. I then post a photo online, and within an hour, more than 100 people around the world had posted a photo of them high-fiving themselves in the mirror. And I hadn't even put instructions.
Right. They're just mimicking what you did.
Mimicking.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, there's something here. So I spent the last year researching this.
Yeah. I love when you nerd out. Tell us the nerdy part of why it works. I love this stuff.
Well, let me first tell you that you're not alone in the mirror. So the disgusting habit that every single human being, like, I don't care who you are, where you live, what your education is, how much money you have, Everybody has this habit. It is a habit of self-rejection. 50% of people cannot even look at themselves in the mirror. That's men and women. 50%, because they are disgusted by what they see, or they are sad about where they're at. 50% based on our research. That's number one. Now, we know that 91% of women do not like how they look. And so if you can look at yourself in the mirror, you're in the minority. And if you do look at yourself in the mirror, what we know based on research is almost everybody focuses on what they don't like. And so, if you can't even look at yourself, that is rejection of self, and it's a habit. And if you look in the mirror and you see all the things that you hate or need to fix, that is also a habit of self-rejection. And everybody has it. And nobody's talking about it. And what the high five habit actually does at its deepest level is it teaches you, using simple science, to break the habit of self-rejection and to replace it with a habit of self-acceptance, self-validation, and when you repeat this over time, a habit of self-love and self-worth. And so here's why this feels weird. The reason why high-fiving yourself in the mirror feels weird is that you are breaking that habit of self-rejection. And whenever you are practicing any new habit, it always feels weird. That's how you know it's working.
Right.
If I lost my right hand today in a car accident and I had to write with my left hand, it would feel weird. And it feels weird, not necessarily because it's new. It feels weird because the habit is now requiring me to plow new connections in my brain that aren't there right now. If your brain is currently wired to reject yourself, to go, ugh, when you see yourself in the mirror, it's going to feel weird to look at yourself for a second and then practice an action that says acceptance, belief, and love. That's why it feels weird. And so the reason why you resist it too is because there's this other habit that we have of judgment. And in the bathroom every morning, I want you to consider you're actually not standing before your reflection. I want you to consider that you are in the bathroom with another person. That's a human being in the mirror. And that human being is trying very hard. And they are beaten down by your constant criticism and your hatred and your critiquing and you're focusing on what's going wrong. And they need you to wake up, and they need you to start to see them and to cheer for them and to support them. They need that from you.
This is where the words that were floating through my mind is you are in this game. And if I may say, as it was building, not only am I in this game, but I'm sort of killing it. Like, not gonna lie, like, I love my life. Things are going well. And why would I continue these old tapes? And what's interesting to me as a spiritual teacher, I'm also a teacher as well.
I know.
That I love when you talk about your struggle, because I have a real issue with toxic positivity. And a lot of times in spiritual communities, I might say to colleagues or friends, I've been a little anxious lately. And I feel like everyone like repels back and it's like, oh no, we can't have a negative thought right now. And, I'm a human being. Yes, I connect with people. Yes, I love to get motivated, but it's been a hard year and a half. There's been a lot of energy on the planet. And I think sometimes when I'm in the stillness of my own being, those quiet moments early in the morning, looking in the mirror, I save some of that negativity and maybe it festers a little bit versus sort of talking about it through the day. And so I love when you talk about your struggle, you're very, very honest about your relationship with that anxiety and stuff like that. And it's really refreshing and so necessary right now.
Well, I actually think the reason why you're negative is because it's just a habit.
Yeah.
I really think that you, like most of us, at some point, we go from these perfect, whole, complete beings that come into this world hardwired for celebration and self-love, confidence, and resilience.
Mm.
You know, you never see a baby take a step back from a mirror and go, God, my thighs are fat.
I
Like you
love
just
the
like
mirror
it doesn't
reference.
happen.
Right.
And at some point, whether it's because of abuse and trauma and criticism in your home, or what happens to absolutely everyone is when you enter school and the driving survival mechanism is to fit in somehow.
Yes.
Your brain goes from a self-love machine into becoming that sorting hat from Harry Potter.
Mm.
Where if you've ever, you know, we can all remember back to that moment in elementary school where you've got your tray in the cafeteria and you're looking around for where you want to sit and your heart is pulling you towards the group that you want to go to. But the sorting hat brain who's just trying to protect you is like, you can't go over there. Those are the lacrosse kids. Oh, you can't go over there. You don't look like them. Oh, you can't go over there because you don't have the same kind of clothing or money or whatever. And your brain is just trying to keep you safe.
Right.
But you start the habit of rejection of self from a very young age. And it's just become a pattern. That's all that it is. Like, you're not broken if you criticize yourself.
Right.
You have a pattern that is broken. Now what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the 3 strategies that will keep you, the secrets to building an optimistic mindset. You ready? Excellent. Here we go. Number 1, the secret to an optimistic mindset. You got to be maniacal about your intake. Negativity in here means negativity in your body gets stored here and negativity comes out here. It becomes this loop of negativity. And so in order to build a positive mindset, I want you to be maniacal about positive input. That means really watch your news intake. Do not be watching it every day. Get the facts, get what you need to know from a trusted, measured, calm, factual source, and then turn that shit off, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, edit your social media. Anything on your social media feeds should be helping you be more resilient, more optimistic, more positive. Anything that you're following that triggers you, that is negative, that rubs you the wrong way. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, I have some favorite celebrities that I have followed for a while because I think they're funny, or I love just kind of their sense of humor. But there are so many people that I have muted right now because I think that what they're doing online is so freaking out of whack. Seeing people give us advice about quarantining from the back of their estates and mansions, telling us to donate when they're not saying they're donating, seeing this kind of tone deaf celebrity thing going on. I'm normally not a negative person about that, but I have muted so many accounts because it's not doing anything for me. And you got to be selfish right now. You have got to edit your social media feeds so that your social media feeds are helping you build an optimistic and positive mindset. And so every day, the second I see something, mute, unfollow, because negativity in means negativity gets stored here, means negativity goes out there from you. You want to put positivity, optimism, tools, strategies, things that keep you laughing, things that keep you giving you things that you can use right now. The second you start getting overloaded with Corona stuff, mute that stuff, edit your social media based on what you need. That's number 1, maniacal about your intake. The second secret to building an optimistic mindset is do tiny things every day that boost your mood, okay? So we're going to build your mood muscle. If you can, move your body, because negativity gets stored here. And moving your body, we know based on the research, simply moving your body for 10 or 20 minutes a day will release chemicals in your mind that help you boost your mood. The second thing that will boost your mood is I want you to make a tiny promise to yourself every day. Just one thing that makes you feel more positive. Is it getting up on time? Is it eating something healthy? Is it only having one glass of wine or reaching for a mocktail? I want you to put one tiny promise into place. Put it into the comments right now. What's one tiny promise that you can make to yourself that you're going to do every day? It might just be that you're going to wake up every day, take a deep breath, remind yourself that you're healthy, and that's going to be the tiny promise. I want you to do one tiny promise every day, because keeping a promise to yourself will boost your mood and make you feel more in control. Another way to build your mood muscle is have a zero tolerance policy for your own negative thoughts. Right now, as you edit social media and edit your news take and edit your negativity coming in from the outside world, do not tolerate negativity from the inside world. I woke up this morning, I looked in the mirror, I looked at the gray hairs that are coming in, particularly like right up here, and I started to go negative. I started to feel dreary, and I went, Mel, cut this shit out. You got to fight to stay positive, gal, because we are in this for another couple months. And do not succumb to despair. Do not start thinking negative stuff. When you have negativity internally, you got to have a zero tolerance policy for that shit. It's one thing to feel what you need to feel so that you can move through it. It's another thing to let negativity dwell up here and start ruminating. The 5-second rule is genius for this. Count fucking backwards. The second that negative, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not listening to it. No, I am redirecting my thoughts. That's right. I am looking for the things I can control. I am keeping a positive attitude by focusing on things that I can control right now today. Got it? Good. The third thing that you need to do in order to build an optimistic mindset. You ready, everybody? Here we go. I want you to pick a small 10-week goal that you can control. Why am I saying 10 weeks? I'm going to tell you why 10 weeks. Because I think that we've got 10 weeks ahead of us of physical distancing. I think we've got 10 weeks ahead of us, if we do it right, of life in this weird state. And I want you to pick one thing, one project, that's it, for the next 10 weeks. That's your personal project. It's something you can control. You ready? Something you can control. We're talking about how to build the skill of an optimistic mindset. And part of an optimistic mindset is focusing on what you can control. And I don't want you to jump ahead and worry about what's coming in the future. I want you to stay in this moment with me. I want you to realize that if you took on one small project for the next 10 weeks that you could control, something you've wanted to learn, some skill that you would love to have, some deficiency in your resume or your experience that you could gain in the next 10 weeks. There is something called YouTube University. That's right. Professor YouTube has so many tutorials out there. It's amazing. Right now, my husband is taking a Buddhist meditation teacher training class. My daughter is taking 2 classes. She is learning how to be better at Excel, because she thinks it will help her with her summer internship. And it's something she was nervous about during the interview process. And she's also taking a painting class. What is one thing that if you were to use the next 10 weeks and we emerge from this and step into the next chapter of our lives, and you have learned something or you have developed a skill that equips you to feel like you are better positioned to step into this next chapter, you will constantly wake up every day and say, today, I get to take this class. Today, I get to work on this thing. Today, I get to spend an hour polishing my Chinese, working on personal development. I see you. I see Himmy Mom building a website. I see Sephora saying she's going to improve her English. I see Nabil saying I'm going to develop editing and online skills. I see LDG, creative healthy cooking. I see Salio saying I'm going to find a class on YouTube University. What's a 10-week thing? Oh, I see Jack saying I'm going to take a French class. I'm going to learn how to crochet. I'm going to begin an online master's program. If you narrow your span of control to managing your mood, to being maniacal about the intake into your mind, and working on a 10-week goal, you will be building an optimistic mindset, because you will have weeded out negativity in from the outside world, which means negativity won't get stored here and it won't get expressed from you. You will have built your mood muscle by forcing yourself to move every day, by keeping a tiny promise to yourself, and by being absolutely zero tolerance for your own negative bullshit on the inside. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, redirect your mind to something you can control. And having a 10-week personal project where you pick something and you use YouTube University, and you use this moment of time where you don't have anywhere to go and you don't have social distractions. You got time to focus on yourself. These 3 things will help you build an optimistic mindset. Absolutely, positively guaranteed. Can I require this of my teenagers? Here's what I would say about teenagers. One of the hardest things for teenagers right now is their loss of independence. And trying to require anything of your teenagers other than showing up for family dinner and creating their own routine, I think is a recipe for disaster. What I would do instead is I would share that this is what you're doing. And I would ask your teenagers a question. If you had a half an hour every day where you dedicated it to something other than school or other than being on your phone looking at social media, what's one thing that you never have time to do that you love doing? Is it playing guitar? Is it painting? Is it journaling? Is it reading a book? Is it knitting? Is it working on your tricks out on the trampoline in the backyard? What is it? If you ask your teenagers questions, in answering the question, they may find the self-motivation that this is something they want to do. I love that I don't know how to say your name, Jal, is working on emotional dependency and breaking apart the patterns that had you become somebody that was codependent and emotionally dependent on other people. Dr. Caro, I love you very much too. I think that's it. Today, the whole broadcast was about optimism. The reason why you cannot allow yourself to get into this pessimistic mindset loop, because it keeps you feeling helpless, it keeps you feeling stuck, it keeps you overwhelmed, and it makes you just stay stuck here. And why you got to build the skill of optimism. Because when you are optimistic, it's not that you are slapping a positive spin on a shitty situation. You are cultivating a mindset where you believe in your bones, your soul, every part of your being, that no matter what you're facing, you can have a positive impact on how you experience what you're facing, because you can choose what you think about and you can choose how you respond. And when you start to develop an optimistic mindset, it creates more optimism. It helps you see solutions and opportunities. It makes you feel more in control. It gives you things that you can focus on. It begets the ability to feel empowered, which only creates more empowerment for you. And the 3 things that you can do to create an optimistic mindset is, number 1, here's the 3 secrets. Be maniacal about what you allow into your mind. Totally. We do not turn the news on in this house. We don't allow it, because you know the old saying, if it leads, it bleeds. There's nothing but negativity coming off of the news right now. So there are a few things that we check. I look at the CDC, I look at the World Health Organization, and I look at the state of Massachusetts website, and that's about it. And I look at what Bill Gates is writing. And once I have the facts, I just focus on what I can control. I focus on my safety. That's it. I've also, every day I edit social media. Your social media should be serving you. If it triggers you in any way, if it creates any negativity, any tone deafness, anything, mute it, unfollow, get rid of that shit. Social media should be a service that is supporting you right now. in your efforts to stay positive, to stay empowered, to stay safe, and to stay laughing. That is what you should use it for right now. The second thing to do to build a positive mindset is build your mood muscle. Move your ass 10 to 20 minutes every day because your body stores negativity. Make a tiny promise to yourself that you're going to keep every day, because keeping a small promise builds confidence, makes you feel like you're in control, and it creates momentum. And zero tolerance for your own negative bullshit. You got it? It's one thing to feel feelings, to move through them. It's another thing to let negativity sit up here and make you ruminate. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In 5 seconds flat, you feel your own negativity. You get that bullshit out of there. You got no room for that stuff right now. And finally, the third thing you can do to start to build an optimistic mindset, establish a 10-week personal project. This is something that you are excited to do, that you usually don't have time to do. Why 10 weeks? Because I think that 10 weeks is going to see you through this moment of time. Use YouTube University to watch tutorials. Take small step every single day. And remember this little hack that I taught you. Thank you, Lorenzo in Italy. If you start feeling the stress and anxiety and panic of, I need to do this, I have to do this, blah, 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 I can't get through my to-do list, I'm totally stressed out, blah, 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 blah. Stop. Take a deep breath. Use these 3 words. I get to take an online class. I get to do my homework. I get to do this to-do list. I get to be home with my family. I get to have this time alone. I get to work on myself. I get to fight to be positive. I get to take 20 minutes every day and stream an exercise class. It will flip your mindset into one of optimism, of control, and gratitude. Because let's face it, if you're healthy right now, and if you're able to watch a video online, you have reason to be grateful. And when you remind yourself of that, you will feel positive. Somebody just asked me why Bill Gates. I'm going to answer real quick, because he's one of the smartest human beings on the planet, who has made a commitment to donating almost his entire wealth to charities. And for the last decade, he and his wife have been at the forefront of global health research and initiatives and taking action. And if there is a man who is informed, who has been studying this, he gave a TED Talk in 2015 about pandemics, about world health, where he predicted this. He is talking about the fact that there are 3 things that we need to do right now. And one of them is we need to all be enforcing physical distancing for 10 weeks. We need to develop a way for everybody to test themselves so you know whether you've been exposed or not. And we need to collaborate globally on a vaccine. All 3 things based in fact and research, all 3 things that are measured and calm, all 3 things that make a hell of a lot of sense that I get behind. And so that's one of the reasons why. Research, credibility, a decade worth of experience, the smartest people on the planet, and a measured factual delivery. That is what I respond to, because I'll be damned if I allow fear, cynicism, hysteria, any of that crap that you see all over the news and the internet right now to enter my mind. There is no reason for it. You have the facts. 10 weeks, keep yourself safe, keep your mind optimistic, stay connected with me, stay connected with your family and friends, and we will get through this. 1,000%. We will get through this together. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.